7 years ago, gaming fundamentally changed. The Nintendo Switch, the latest console by Nintendo, one of the most storied and important icons in the video games industry, released the Nintendo Switch. They had a lot to live up to and to redeem after the disaster that was the Wii U. But they managed to reclaim their former glory, not even just reclaim, in my opinion, exceed anything they have brought to the table before. And in my opinion, decades later on, when we look back at the most pivotal times in the gaming industry, it is my firm belief that one of the most important will be the Nintendo Switch, for the simple reason that it bridged the gap between two massive communities in gaming: the stay-at-home console crowd and the mobile crowd. The people who want to be able to play on the go, on public transport, when they're waiting in an office, or whatever. The Nintendo Switch would revolutionize gaming in this regard by bringing that console game experience with you wherever you go and making it seamless and easy to play wherever or however you wanted to. It was never the strongest kid on the block in terms of graphical fidelity, or in terms of processing power, or whatever. But the genius of the Nintendo Switch was twofold: the hybrid model on full display, but also its price point. It was a cheap console back then, and it still is today. And because of that nature, because of that flexibility in both utilization and price point, it grew a massive following for the more casual audience of gamer. But you couple that with Nintendo being on an absolute hot streak for the last 7 years in terms of game releases, and the stars aligned for Nintendo. And now there's not really a doubt in anyone's mind that the next console Nintendo's going to put out will be a straight-up successor to the Switch, because it's such a proven successful formula that they would have to be cataclysmically, monumentally stupid to avert from their current course. And we see other people in the industry try and desperately follow suit after Nintendo in regards to their hardware. I think this will be the enduring legacy of the Nintendo Switch. The fact that I think it's going to completely fundamentally shift the console scene from here on out, where the focus will no longer necessarily be on a straight-up power increase going from one generation to the next. I fully believe that embracing the hybrid model will be the play these companies invoke in the future. We've already seen PlayStation try and do something along these lines in regards to the PlayStation Portal, which in my opinion is a pale imitation that doesn't rely on the ease of use and just overall accessibility of the Switch. We have seen Steam, the predominant marketplace for PC gaming, put out hardware, actual hardware, with the Steam Deck, which is that similar tablet-esque design where you can take your Steam library with you on the go. And we have seen this thing be a success and be wanted and desired despite the fact that laptops exist. There's something about the form and functionality and portability of the Switch's design that is here to stay, in my opinion. And you can argue this started with the Wii U with the tablet, which I was a massive fan of. However, Nintendo took that extra leap and let that be the console, instead of an accessory that, well, augmented your experience alongside the actual console of the Wii U. The Switch was the tablet, and the dock was merely a way to display what was on that tablet to your TV, predominantly speaking, or to hook some wires up, whatever, if you want to get like, I'm actually about it. And when we look to the future of Xbox, we are seeing, at least, if you want to read between the lines of what Phil Spencer and other leading figures of Xbox were talking about in their recent podcast addressing the future of Xbox, that it is very likely that there's going to be some kind of portable companion device for Xbox's next generation platform. We have seen, despite the fact that the Switch suffers from a power perspective, it absolutely dominates not just last generation, but this generation in terms of sales figures. And while those numbers may be dropping off now, that is because, well, at this point, it's really, really old hardware, and a lot of people already have one, and they're waiting with bated breath for the next one, which should be announced some point. Yeah? Like, whenever Nintendo decides to actually announce this frickin' thing. But in my experience, at least in my opinion and from the people I've heard from, what most people just want out of the next Nintendo console is just the Switch again with more power and better online. It's not like the Switch was a perfect console, it just got right what it needed to get right. and became a trendsetter instead of a trend follower. We have seen the other consoles on display become more and more akin to a weaker PC or a more restrictive PC in terms of function and design. However, the Switch has some actual value in terms of its hardware. It's not just it's not just a device to let you play a game on, it augments your experience and opens up new capabilities for you as a player. And I think from now on, the console market will be defined by having either a device that is like the Switch as the main thing, to where it leans in that hybrid model, or there'll be some kind of companion device, like the PlayStation Portal, that enables you to seamlessly swap from playing on your couch or in your chair to on the go at a moment's notice. That accessibility and portability, in my opinion, will be key in the future for console gaming. Because even if you're me and you don't utilize the mobile aspect of the Switch all that often, it's nice just to have it as an option. Like, it just is. Like, maybe I just want to go lay in my bed for a little bit, but also play a little bit of Xenoblade. I can do that with the Switch. That is a very powerful thing, and in those moments, albeit rare, being able to know that I have that ability to do that is a comfort, and is something that, well, rival platforms are trying to replicate. I don't have to stare at a screen that is way too small for comfort gaming, in my opinion, like on mobile devices, or to utilize an interface that, in my opinion, is just not intuitive to gaming, or at least most gaming, in regards to like tablet devices. The Switch is portable, the form is really solid, it needs some better battery to it, don't get me wrong, but in terms of actually playing a game like that, it blows out of the competition everything that has come before, in my opinion. I have big hands. Playing a DS, or one of those portable consoles, was never ideal for me. The closest was maybe the PSP back in the day, which is kind of like a smaller Switch in a way, in terms of like form, but giving me a screen that is decently big, but also actual control schemes alongside it. It's a simple solution to a simple problem that had not really been addressed in a meaningful and accessible way before the Switch. That to me is the legacy of the Nintendo Switch. It's not the strongest kid on the block by far, but it's easily the most popular. Because, well, it's the most accessible. And Nintendo rarely missed when it comes to game releases with the Switch generation, which is what they needed to do. Even if they happened to flop for a particular game, chances were that they had 4 or 5 games within the next year that you probably cared about if you like Nintendo games. And sure, third party every now and then was a bit of an issue. Mortal Kombat 1! But if you had the Switch, chances are you were not wanting in terms of new game releases, because Nintendo's first-party releases were so strong. And even if you want to argue, like I do on occasion, that Pokemon dropped off on the Switch generation and wasn't all that good, you had so many other things. And games that moved the needle in terms of the gaming industry by themselves, when coupled also with the functionality of the Switch, was a match made in heaven, like Breath of the Wild, being a launch release for the Switch. It also came out on the Wii U, but 12 people in the world owned a Wii U, so most people played it on the Switch. And Breath of the Wild is one of those games that understands how to make a compelling open-world experience that is fulfilling, enriching, and fun and engaging. Sometimes less is more, and relying on that sense of adventure and just being in an open world and wanting to explore simply because you have this sense of wanderlust was a great addition. Was it a perfect game? No. Was it a perfect Zelda game? No. Was it a great game? Yes. And you pair that with the functionality and adaptability of the Switch, and you saw how successful it was. Then you have a game like Super Mario Odyssey come out, which in my opinion was an amazing introduction to 3D Mario games for a lot of people, myself included. I love that game. And I loved Xenoblade 2. And then they brought Xenoblade 1 to the Switch, and it was great. And then they released Xenoblade 3, and it was great. And you had a lot of releases for franchises that were lesser known, or not as talked about or beloved on a mass scale, have a release on the Switch, and see their numbers do amazing because more people had access to those games than ever before. Games like Pikmin 4, Fire Emblem, Three Houses. Games that always had potential, and series that always had potential, but never had that big breakout moment, had it on the Switch. Because these games put out amazing versions of themselves, and the functionality of the Switch bolstered everything up. You had amazing enduring releases like Mario Kart, with all its DLC, as well as Smash Bros. Ultimate, a new 2D Mario game that was really well received, with Super Mario Wonder, and from beginning, middle, and end, you always saw good swaths of games being released for Nintendo, for the Switch. And despite the fact that it wasn't a graphical powerhouse, and instead held certain games back in my opinion because of the hardware, at the end of the day, people cared about that flexibility, that affordability, and the functionality of the Switch far more than that. Because when you played a Nintendo game, it wasn't just the fact you had to buy a Nintendo console to play the exclusives, you got some functionality out of playing a Nintendo game on this, or a game on the Switch with that hybrid model. That is a very powerful thing for a lot of people. When you release an affordable console that's extremely flexible in terms of how you can interface with it, and you release constant game releases that are high quality and well received on average for it. And we have seen the success the Switch has had as a result of all those things coming into being. And I think that will be the lesson that people take away from the Switch. That will be the legacy the Switch has going into the future, as all the other companies in the industry on the whole try their best to replicate the success of the Switch, because I don't think that desire for hybrid gaming, or for having the way and ability to play at home or on the move or on the go or wherever, will fade away or go anywhere. I think it will continue to grow. And as technology continues to grow and get better, and as these new hardware and software techniques come into their own, like DLSS or FSR and frame generation and all that good stuff, when that stuff starts to get incorporated into hardware, and especially these hybrid models of consoles, then you'll see these consoles be able to punch up above their pay grade and deliver better performance and better fidelity for less cost. Strike while the iron is hot, and I think the industry is planning to do just that. So that's why I think that the Nintendo Switch will be a massive turning point in console gaming and the industry on the whole. And the future will be a bit murky and mysterious until at least they announce what the Switch 2 actually is, but I think irregardless of how well Nintendo does in the future, the legacy of the Nintendo Switch, well, it's here to stay. I think that's a good thing, because it's a good piece of hardware, because of that functionality. Maybe better devices will come along in the future, but this is the trendsetter, and it was a pretty damn good one. And with that, I'll call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure for making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe, have a great day, go play some video games if you can, and as always, I'll see you all next time. Bye bye everybody, until we meet again.